Scene script. Have you ever pondered upon the question, what is neoliberalism and how is it relevant in today's world? Well, let's dive into it. Neoliberalism, in its most basic form, is an economic ideology that champions the power of free markets. It's a philosophy that believes in the magic of deregulation and privatization, suggesting that markets, when left to their own devices, can solve most of our problems effectively. The backbone of this ideology is the concept of minimal government intervention in the economy. Neoliberalism advocates argue that a competitive marketplace is the best way to foster economic growth. They believe that when businesses compete, innovation thrives, efficiency increases, and ultimately, consumers benefit. But of course, like any ideology, it's more complex than that. There are nuances and differing interpretations. There are proponents and critics. So now that you have a basic understanding of neoliberalism, how does it fit into today's world? Neoliberalism isn't just a theory, it is a practice that shapes our everyday lives. It's the invisible hand guiding the course of global politics, economic policies, and even our social norms. Let's take a closer look at how it's at play in today's world. When we think of neoliberalism, we often think of deregulation. It's the principle that advocates for fewer restrictions on businesses, allowing them to operate as they see fit. This often leads to increased competition. But on the flip side, it can also lead to monopolies and the widening of wealth gaps. Then, there's liberalization, the idea of opening up economies to international trade, fostering interconnectedness, but also increasing vulnerability to global economic fluctuations. And finally, austerity, the practice of reducing government spending, often in public services, to control public sector debt. While it might stabilize economies, it often comes at the cost of social welfare. Neoliberalism's impact is far-reaching, but is it really a belief or merely New Age capitalism? So you might wonder, is neoliberalism a genuine belief, or is it just New Age capitalism in disguise? Well, it's a question that sparks heated debate. On one hand, some argue that neoliberalism is indeed a belief system, founded on principles of individual liberty and limited government intervention. On the other hand, critics regard it as a form of capitalism that primarily benefits the wealthy and powerful. These critics point to the widening gap between the rich and the poor, a direct result, they argue, of neoliberal policies that favor market deregulation and corporate power. They also highlight the lack of social protections, claiming that neoliberalism often leaves the most vulnerable in society without a safety net. Despite these criticisms, neoliberalism has shaped and continues to shape economies around the globe. It's a force that cannot be ignored, regardless of one's perspective. Though the debate continues, one thing is clear: neoliberalism, in whatever form, shapes the world we live in today.